It's faded, baby.
Perfect.
I want to say as well, how to put this? To be honest, no one cares about a man's problem or plea. Like if a man said, "Oh, I don't have any, I don't have any rights today" or whatever, very few people would be like, "Okay, yeah, let me go and get signed for you, whatever." But let a woman say that, a whole bunch of men can do it because either A, well, is all right. I want to get with this person later down, or B, I just want to be Superman or whatever the case would be, and that is a very huge problem.
But I think if men open up and start talking to the right women and have the right friends, yeah.
But see, that's the thing. Who is the right woman? One. And then two, when you do open up, then there's some women who see that as weak.
Then you don't need them in your life. Period. You don't need them in your life.
That is true.
If you're not adding value to my life, I don't need you. Period.
I just think, okay, could it be, I just look at another perspective, which is because my mother might have said a man a man doesn't show his feelings, or a man doesn't, cry, or whatever the case would be. So while this particular person might be a good fit for you, because how she has been taught, then it's like, okay, that is not the guy for you. So then, both of you guys were probably, I don't know if people believe in stars and different shit like that, but probably both of you guys were meant for each other. But because of the wrong teachings from parents, then of course, you don't ever.
But that's where you gotta really sit back and think. I remember my last fiance back in 2013. He really opened my eyes, because I'll be honest with you, that was me too. I believe it, man crying, what are you crying for? Like, you're supposed to be strong. This is what we were taught, And watch my fiance go through some mental health issues and crying. I had that. Can I curse?
Yeah, of course.
I had that. Oh shit. I had that. Oh shit. You're human just like me.
But this is always the interesting part. How could you not think that? I mean, just even without someone teaching you that, because again, we have different genitalia. But other than that,
someone from the time this is, most people in my family are women. The men in my family died off, so you have a great number of women telling you certain things, and you have society telling you that man is supposed to be strong.
Fair.
I mean, and you just operating in that mode. It's hard to see. You know what I mean? It's just like how, well, they claim, I don't know how true this is, I wasn't there. It's just like how the indigenous people of America really, what was it? I think they could not see the Columbus ships because they've never seen one before. It wasn't until it was pointed out to them, but that's what they say. You know what I mean? That they saw them, but I don't believe that anyway, because they had ships of their own. The indigenous people were up and down the Caribbean Channel over to South America for thousands of years, even before the European came. But I digress. The point is, if you're not accustomed to seeing something, it's hard to see it. You get where I'm coming from. And sometimes you have to be in the position, one, to really feel and understand what the other person's going through, to really identify. Like, I had to be empathic, is the word? I'm not sure. Yeah, to really say, like, wow, I have to make this a safe space for him. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, any guy I date right now, and you know what's really crazy? Like, when I'm dating a guy, and I try to let him know that he has a safe space, you don't believe it. It's so hard.
Because, so many women, that's the thing, and this is not this to women, there's just people in general. So many people say things, and then when the situation actually presents itself, then you see a different thing. That's like, for me, when I hear people say, oh yeah, I'm a real positive person, etc., etc., and I put all these quotes, on WhatsApp and Facebook and different shit, but then when a situation happens, it's time for you to really be present. You
gotta show proof.
Exactly. So I just think that is why a lot of men are probably scared. Because those situations happen a lot more frequent than you hear of the other way.
But it's the same thing with the women too. You also have to provide safe spaces for us.
Agreed. I am about healthy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think a lot of women, and they might not ever admit it for the most part, a lot of women sometimes choose the wrong guy by not looking at the red flags, or not, how to put this. They try to think, okay, I can change him, right? And you see the red flags. You know, okay, this guy has said X, Y, X, Y, Z, whatever the case would be. So that alone is information for you to be like, okay, probably he's not the person that I should be with. But I think I could change him.
Granted, I hear your point,
Mhm.
but also been being one of those women sometimes too, because I still am human. I make mistakes, and
Fair. I'm not. I'm
you know, I
People
ignore
will
red
make
flags,
mistakes.
and they say like, how did I end up here? But at the same time, if I'm being honest with you, and I said, look, I want to get married in the next 3 years, and this is what I want, and you say yeah, the same thing, and you just turn out to whatever, try to use me, or whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
it's also your fault because I
Yeah.
told you what I wanted.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to take full
Yeah,
responsibility.
yeah, of course.
Because
That's
the man himself, and I think I cannot stand,
Mhm.
is when a man knows the intentions of a woman, and then he will go and joke about it or talk about it with his friends, and his friends, well, I just hit them cheeks and just call it a day, man. Like, really? You get where I'm coming from? It's like you're totally disrespecting, disregarding the woman's intention and wasting her time, wasting her youthful years. You get me? And it ain't right. It's not right, and that pisses me off more than anything else.
I totally agree. I think that both parties are have been damaged significantly, and because of that, is always the okay. I gotta get this on him, or I gotta get that on her, or whatever the case would be.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't operate in love. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's one of the biggest problems in general. I mean, if you are not about something, because that's the other thing. I will say that men and women do it, where you know you're not about a relationship, but you pretend that you want to be in a relationship, probably because, as you said, you want to hit the cheeks, whatever the case would be. All right, cool. I always believe I give you the option, or I give you the information you need to make an informed decision, right? I will say what it is that I'm about, and if you're not about that, unfortunately, that is just what it is.
But you know what? I realize now. After my ex, I literally took a 2-year, 8-month break because that boy gave me PTSD. So
Okay.
I had to
Fair.
heal. But what I realize now that I'm back on the dating scene
Mhm.
is that men are asking me, "What do you want? Do you want to get married?
Mhm.
What do you want?" And I said, "No, well, eventually I'd like to get married."
Mhm.
And they say, "Okay, I am not the one for you.
Okay, this is good. This is
I'm
good.
just looking for a little short time, something, and that's it." And you know what? I respect that. Because it's like, okay, yeah, like you giving me the choice. You get me? In the past, oh, good Lord. Yeah, it was like, okay, you can't let a man know your intentions because he's going to use it against you. You can't let a man know what you like because he's going to use it against you. You get where I'm coming from? I'm like, so how is a man supposed to get to know you? You know what I mean? Like, that to me personally, but once again, was born and raised in America, so my views might be different than lay people. But eventually a man always shows his hand. You just gotta not look through love goggles and just see things as it is.
A person always shows their hand. I agree. But I wanted to touch on something you mentioned, which is healing, right? A lot of people, and again, there's no diss to women. It's just that a lot more. I've seen it a lot more with women, where you get in a relationship, you get out of a relationship, and the first thing that you do is you look to get under somebody else, right?
Same thing with men.
Again, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I've seen a lot more, right? And also, when you look at it, you can even see it for yourself, where a lot more women would be like, "Oh, nah, we going out tomorrow night. You ain't find another man." A lot of men don't have that. A lot of men would, as you mentioned, would get heckled or whatever the case would be, and then they'll probably be home sulking, complaining, whatever the case would be and stuff. Some men have the opportunity to, call it somebody else or whatever, right? But in most cases, women just go out tomorrow, and because of the thirst, a man can be like, "Yeah, boy, she look good. Yeah, boy," and she in another relationship or on her way to another relationship much quicker than men.
Well, that's because I think women pull out much quicker, and you guys don't realize that we pulled out. So in a relationship, we would, if how can I put this? We would. Once we start seeing signs that this relationship is not for us, we'll put up a good front. We'll put up a good face that all is well. And sometimes we will tell you, most times we will tell you, babe, I'm not happy with this. I'm not comfortable with this.
You said most times?
Most times.
I disagree, but hey, that's just me.
Yeah. But sometimes men don't listen. And you gotta know what you gotta listen for it. Men just tend to just dismiss things. They'll just dismiss it or whatever the case may be. So I find we tend to once we realize that our issues are not being addressed, we start pulling out emotion a long time. So by the time we say it's done, our feelings are done. We've dealt with our issues, hurt, pain, cried it out already. We had our sister circle, everything. So by the time I break up with you, best believe the next day I can go to a club because I've done my mourning for you already.
Okay.
I've already done the mourning for the future with you already. For you already. It's just that you're now catching up. Because I've given you ample, clues or hints, or I've talked to you directly about it, and you just don't pay attention. Now, what I don't like what women do is automatically assume that a man's supposed to know what a woman's thinking. I can't stand that.
Okay, and I'm glad you're addressing all these things. I want to also say that I think some women, and men too, but some women and men have this unrealistic expectation from the standpoint of, okay, if I talk to you today about an issue, then the next time it shouldn't come or next time it shouldn't be a problem. When you have to look at it from the psychology, which is, okay, this has probably been a habit, right? You saying this to me the first time, I might not really take it on. The second time, probably not. The third time, no, I probably recognize, all right, this really is a problem, along with you pointing out the times that it does happen. So then we now come to the understanding that it is a problem. So now I have to unlearn those behaviors. So it's not going to, I taught him about 3 times, I taught him about 4 times, he ain't listening, he ain't thing. He now has to, or she now has to unlearn those behaviors. So you have to give it time and also work with the person, right, in those regards. So I just think like sometimes we both have those unrealistic expectations of when something is going to change, right? And I think that adds to then people wanting to leave or thinking, okay, let me psychologically start to check out on this person, rather than understanding like, yo, this can't be fixed in a few weeks or whatever the case would be. Some things are more deep-rooted, right? In people's past trauma with their family, whatever the case would be and stuff, things they would have seen before. And yeah, I think we just need to understand that a lot more.
And I think too that, I agree, we also need to talk to each other.
I agree.
We don't talk to each other. I said something the other day that women were up in arms about it. They were like, I think I said, so I have some male friends who are going through some major issues, right? And I remember I put up on my status, I fully understand why men drink, do drugs, and have multiple sexual partners. Because a great number of them are just looking for peace. And the women were like, oh, you shouldn't give them any acceptance. You shouldn't give them I'm like, where is oblige? Where is it give them acceptance? I'm just saying, I fully understand why men do these things now. Because at the end of the day, all a man wants is peace. And what women also, and men, have to learn is how to give peace to the person. So what I might call peace might be different from what you call peace. So you have to understand the definition of the peace that the person you're dealing with and what they're seeking. You get where I'm coming from? But I understand because, like we just discussed a couple of minutes ago, that a lot of men are at a disadvantage. That they don't have that support system. So these are the devices they go to find that it ain't right. I'm not condoning it. It ain't right, but it is what it is. And I think once we stop trying to silence each other and start listening, I mean, truly listening to what each other is saying, then maybe we can start working stuff. I'd love to see a lot more black marriages, whether it's polygamous or not, you know. But once again, that goes to my African side as well. You know what I mean? So once again, we have to start listening to one another.
I agree. So many people to me feel better complaining, and they don't want to find solutions, because if you take away the reason why we were arguing or whatever, it's like, I don't have anything anymore, right? And I get it, but it's not productive or healthy. I always tell people, and a lot of people again have to break those generational curses and cycles where, you know, I even met a girl. A friend of mine met a girl where they were good, they were cool, they didn't have any problems, you know, a few spots here and there, whatever the case would be. But she was so accustomed to big cuss-outs, probably somebody throwing things, whatever the case would be, want to pull each other, and then we made back up, you know, and have sex. That was their thing or whatever.
That might be her definition of what love is.
Exactly, because that's probably what she saw growing up, right? And again, as you mentioned about peace, for him, like, what's the sense of doing all this, right? We have a problem, let's work it, let's talk about it maturely, right? And of course, both of them will be able to, you know, meet or gel properly or whatever. But we have so much of that. So when people, oh, he didn't really love me, you know, he didn't curse me, he didn't slap me, whatever the case would be that they think, right? It's always interesting to me, because even if you, again, it would be hard, I get it, but I think, like, I always think about elevation or progress, like, how do I become better? So if my relationship, and again, is about being aware too of yourself and situations and how you add or subtract a situation, because I think, like, a lot of people don't see when their energy changes. And when your energy changes towards your person, then that causes a reaction. Because if you're saying all the time, oh, nothing wrong, but I still see you move different, I have to then start to think, okay, what is happening here? So those little things cause people to then, unfortunately, cheat or, you know, break up, whatever the case would be. But people have to be aware of the little changes that they make.
And I'll even tell you a situation that happened to me recently. You know, I remember I was dating this guy, and because I'm always the one chasing, like, not chasing in the sense like, okay, say we started talking, you know, I find that a lot of men tend to pull back sometimes, and because they pull back, I'm now, okay, come here, what's wrong? You know, is
the men here?
Yeah.
No, the reason I ask is because a lot of men here are not accustomed to a lady being the person to lead into a relationship.
But I've learned that when men pull back, is because there's another situation. Could be as well. But so I stopped doing all that, right? But the thing is that this guy I was dating in particular, he was so alpha, and he tended to all my needs. I actually was, like, stunned. I was like, what do I do with myself? You know what I mean? And he kept asking me, what's wrong with you? Like, what's wrong? Because all of a sudden I became real quiet. I'm like, why do I have to chase after you?
Right.
He pulled up. He's like, I'm here. I'm with you. 50 eye to eye. I was like, what do I do? You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, this is where I get to be me. I get to have my peace. I get to breathe. You get where I'm coming from? So sometimes, you know, that's we women want to breathe too. We just, and I told a friend of mine that in England, you know, we women just want to just know that everything's going to be all right.